To continue to maintain the momentum and ensure our action remain peaceful is also satisfied with especially by the Independent Electoral Commission (INEC) so far. From the Popo primary in Irabuji, in oh my goodness, the local government. Sorry? Okay, from the Popo Area School here in Irabuji, where the governor has just his vote, we can see the level of enthusiasm by the people around here, the electorate, and the massive turnout. So they are so impressive with the powerful outcome, or rather the acting place. From unit number 2 in Ward 1, man, Trust TV News.
All right, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on the live coverage of the Osun governorship election. We'll be bringing you updates every now and then as it unfolds, and here we'll also be bringing analysis and perspectives to what's going on out there in Osun State. We have our correspondent, Shafiu Suleiman, who is standing by to bring us up to date. Now, this election is very critical to the 2023 general elections, as some consider it as a test case for the coming 2023 general elections. A total of 15 candidates are contesting to take the #1 seat in Osun State, and we have majorly top 4 contenders. The APC, which is having its flag bearer, the incumbent governor, Adeboyega Oyetola, and also we have the PDP, Ademola Adeleke, who is the flag bearer of that party. And then also we have Lasun Yusuf, the flag bearer of the Labour Party, and then also Accord Party, Ogumbi. He is also vying for that same seat. So quite a number of issues going on. A lot of concerns raised about that election. It is coming few weeks after that of Ekiti State. So a lot of focus is on Osun State to see that all the things that happened in the Ekiti State governorship election does not repeat in that election. I have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, a political analyst, who will be also bringing perspectives to us as we forge ahead. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so
on
much.
This special
Thank you so much for having me, Ayuba.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we will be taking a short update from our correspondent who is there, Shafiu Suleiman, to have a sense of the mood there in Osun State.
This is polling unit 4, Owode in Osogbo. As early as 8:40, voting has commenced here with all the stakeholders present, the security agencies, the INEC personnel, and of course all party agents. The first person has just voted right now, and of course we've also witnessed the functionality of the Vivas, and of course the orderly queue of the prospective voters. Most of them elderly. One interesting thing about the exercise here, we intend to engage some of them as to why, despite their age, are interested in exercising their franchise. Daddy, can you talk to us? Can you talk to us, sir?
You say?
Yeah, can we know you, sir?
Well, my name is Julius Ogini.
Right, sir. Sir, how old are you?
I'm now 72. I'm 71 plus. Sorry. Plus.
Okay, despite your age, you are here to exercise your franchise. Why is it important for you to exercise this voting right?
Yeah, it is my civic right to vote for my candidate for the betterness of this state.
Right. Okay. How would you describe the exercise here?
For now, everything is going very well. I'm very, very okay with the situation of things now.
So, as you heard from one of the prospective voters, is right on the queue now. It's about to exercise his fundamental right, to voting in this democratic exercise. And the elderly, you can see, people behind him also very much set, to cast their votes. And they are also impressed with the level of preparedness and, of course, the conduct of the exercise here at the Unit 4. Owode in.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA. To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve their sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching the special coverage of the Osun governorship election, and that election is going to determine the direction of the state in the next 4 years. It's one of the off-cycle elections that we have in Nigeria, and it's the last before the 2023 general election. So a lot of people consider it a test case for the 2023 general elections. We also have an addition in the studio. We have Nelson Omonu, publisher at the Summit Post, who joins us to also give perspectives to what's happening in Osun State. Thank you for joining us on the special coverage. All right, well, a number of issues really that are ongoing. From what we are hearing is that some of the new polling units that have been created by INEC, which is aimed at decongesting the polling units, materials are yet to, get to those polling units, and a lot of concerns have been raised about communication between INEC and the voters for them to know where to go to and to know the changes that have been made and all of that. Take a look at the update put together by our correspondent Shafiu Suleiman.
A few meters away from the Unit 4, or Owode, is the newly created Unit 13 by INEC, which is in Ward 6, Olorunda local government. Unfortunately, here, the voters, prospective voters are already here on ground as at this time, but there is no sign of election about to take place here. No INEC officials, no voting cubicles, and of course, no election materials. So let's engage one of the party agents to tell us what exactly is happening here. What's your name?
My name is Kayode Babawale.
Okay. This is supposed to be one of the newly created units.
Yes, it's a new created.
So what is happening here? I haven't seen anything taking place.
We are since waiting for the electoral officers since morning. We are here, but there's no any sign that the officer. There's no any sign that's of election here. So that is, and we call many people that what is happening, but we don't know really happen.
Okay. So what do you intend to do now as a party agent? What's your next step?
We still call them, but we don't know what we can do now. That is why we call you.
Okay. So both the party agents and other stakeholders here at Ward 13, newly created ward by INEC, polling unit 13, which is newly created at Ward 6, are so far helpless, so to speak, because they are not. Nobody is communicating to them. They don't know their fate with regards to whether they will be able to exercise their fundamental right of voting in this governorship election. They are hoping that stakeholders, the critical stakeholders, INEC in particular, which is the electoral umpire, would take this issue up and of course make sure that they are not disenfranchised. Interestingly, a few meters away.
Thank you, Shafiu Suleiman, for the update. Well, critical to this conversation is the issue of INEC's deployment of materials early enough to these polling units. From some of the updates we've heard from at about between 8:30 thereabout, voting has commenced in some of the polling units. So would you say that we have, been able to deploy early enough, if you look at that?
Personally, I think if you look at the trajectory of how elections have been in the past, and now there's been some significant change. 8:30 for most of the polling units, 8:30 was 8:30. However, like the correspondent just said on the field, there's the newer polling units are having issues with getting their materials on time. So there are actually issues. There's still a lag that needs to be done. For me personally, I've seen that the Ekiti election, this one that is going on right now, that's that of Osun State, as more or less like the preseason, if I may use the football metaphor, is more or less like the preseason before the Premier League starts. And 2023 is the Premier League, and that's what we're going towards. So all of the things that happen now sort of lead up to, it tests the competence of how, the readiness of INEC. And now, unlike before, there's less political apathy. People are more involved. People are having direct conversations. People want to know what is going on, how it is going on. Politics is popular now. It's like pop culture. If you're not talking about politics, you're not talking about anything. So this is to say that INEC needs to do more, I think. The newer polling units that they're created, they're creating, there needs to be more communication. I think there's a lag between where those maybe, and this is me just creating a maybe there's a lag between where those materials are supposed to get to. Maybe those people who are supposed to deliver the materials are not even aware
of the location,
there are new polling units, and these
in fact, YAGA, one of the civil society organizations observing the election, have actually raised this concern. Mr. Osun, do you see a breach maybe in communication in terms of informing even the voters about the new polling units? Because yes, good enough that some of the polling units that before now used to be some of them in palaces or maybe in some personal residence have been moved away, and so there've been this review of polling units and increase in the number of the polling units. However, we still hear about over concentration of voters in one polling unit. About 246 polling units are said to have more than 1,000 voters, registered and all that. So, how will this affect the process?
Yes, thank you. Is for INEC to have, I think it's too early in the day for us to start having just an off-season election in a state. And this is our pre-season election, just like he has just alluded to. And I think that INEC has a lot to explain to Nigeria if this is not addressed. But I think that it now depends on the time between when the reports that we're working on, that we are analyzing, was filed, and when, and now maybe a lot must have changed. Just like some polling stations yesterday, INEC resident electoral commissioner for Osun State was on a national TV to debunk rumors that some polling stations were created at burial ground or palaces and all that. So he said that there's no, iota of truth. But one thing I must point out here, if you must vote in this election, that means you are from Osun State. And I think that as at yesterday evening, the Osun State capital, state of Osun capital, was virtually empty because most of the civil servants and people had already started virtually gone to their local government where they register so that they can go to exercise their franchise. I think that these are educated people that know the value of what the exercise they're about to do today, because they have tested someone in the last 4 years and now they want to decide his fate. So they know that they must locate. But I don't believe that looking at the trajectory of our elections, I don't believe that voters don't know where they are supposed to vote. A lot of sensitization has been carried out. I think
but you know that
INEC should do an in-house check.
Yes, but you know the thing is that the possibility of changing the polling unit. So for instance, I usually will vote in a certain polling unit.
That's right.
And then there's been a change and I'm not aware, you know, that affects me as well. So only for me to get to where I'm used to and then discover that that's not where I'm supposed to vote. Then so that leaves me, you know,
the
kind of
concentration
confused.
Wouldn't have been much. The concentration we're having now are places where polling booths no longer exist. Because, like I said, as at yesterday, the resident electoral commissioner did in-depth analysis of how they have carried out in-depth sensitization on where polling booths were moved, adjusted, where it is discovered that it's not supposed to be, and that with in-depth sensitization, I don't think that people as much as 100, 200 should just be straying around not knowing
where to vote.
Where to vote.
Where I might want to even also add is that the current exercise, the CVR exercise, except for those who didn't need to change anything about their voter's card, this current CVR exercise gives you the leverage to pick where you want to vote, where you want your polling unit to be within the state or within a local community where you've intended, where you've actually put down on the website where you want to vote. So I think that idea of people not knowing, it still boils back to what I was saying earlier about voter apathy, or not really voter apathy. I think it's voter education. This is where there's a lag in voter education. INEC has done a lot, we know that, and civil society organizations as well, such as IAGA, Code, and the rest of them, they've actually been doing a lot in terms of voter education. But I feel strongly, because the people who vote are the rural uneducated most of the time. I think that has been the trend. Maybe that is changing now. We are not sure. We've not gotten the entire statistics. Yes. And I think until the 2023 election, before we can get a clearer picture on if that has shifted. But based on the precedents that we have, it is usually the rural uneducated that are actually voting. And because of that, they need to be, those voter education needs to come down to grassroots level. There can still be mix-ups, and there's room for mistakes. We can't say there's no room for mistakes, but the mistakes can be limited. The ones that can be eliminated should be eliminated.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, from what we understand, the incumbent governor, Adeboyega Oyetola, has casted his vote, and also Ademola Adeleke, the flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party, just a few, I think about hours, maybe an hour or so, has also casted his vote. So now, another concern that have been raised about this election is about issue of voter inducement. We've seen how that played out in the Ekiti governorship election. Observers have raised concern as well as to what's going to happen this time around. So some, you know, in the past we've heard how some of the candidates are even boasting about, you know, having enough money to actually go through this process and all that. So yes, Southwest and generally is considered, you know, what the most enlightened parts of the country and all that. In fact, Ekiti State was said to be the state that has the highest number of professors and all that and all that. But that did not stop voter inducement in the Ekiti State governorship election. So what kind of awareness do we need for Nigerians to actually understand that, you know, they shouldn't be trading their votes?
I think voter inducement has very little to do with education and more to do with the weaponization of poverty. Personally, I think it is because our politicians and our leaders have found a way to strategically use poverty as a tool as part of the process of the electioneering process, as part of the electioneering process in its entirety. And that needs to change. We need to let people understand that temporary satisfaction should not trump long-term suffering, should not trump long-term reward. So if you're going to give me 4,000 naira for today's meal, or a meal for 2-3 days, that shouldn't mean that I should sell out my rights for the next 4 years. But however, there's also the other side of it where people are still being paid below the minimum wage. Our leaders need to ensure that there are structures in place to ensure that people get what they deserve in terms of their monies. We need to alleviate people from poverty, because it's the poverty mentality. That weaponization of poverty is where we are having a big problem in terms of vote buying. And then INEC themselves.
But in any case, does the whatever it is that you're going to get, during the election season, is that really enough? Is that worth it? For you to throw away your vote? Because at the end of the day, how much do you get? Maybe 10,000 naira max. If you look at that amount, and if you look at the long 4 years that is ahead of you, is that really worth it?
For the both of us, or the three of us here seated, it's somewhat like we're in a high horse looking at, we don't understand the realities of people in rural communities. Because of the nature of my work, sometimes I've been fortunate to have conversations with people in deep rural communities, and then you get to see their realities. You give some people 1,000 naira, it feels like you've given them 1 million. I'm not even joking. I'm going to equate it to that. It feels like you just dashed them.
Even as at now.
Even as at this moment. Go to deep rural communities in Nigeria, and polling unit ballot boxes get to those places. I think the INEC itself needs to put in place structures. INEC, the media, we need to put in place structures that ensures that these actions can be shamed. What do I mean?
But these are electoral offenses, right? Mm-hmm. In Ekiti State election, we saw how we saw EFCC on ground. In fact, some videos went viral about how they went after some people who were, buying votes and all of that. But we've not heard what happened thereafter. So in terms of prosecution of electoral offenses.
Now, they've been, for a while now, they've been called for the creation of Electoral Offences Commission, and I think that will amount to nothing if the will to fight this is not there. Agree that there is poverty, but are we poorer than some of these small, in quotes, West African countries that are having election and having credible elections? My answer is no. It's just that the politicians, public officials, has not been able to deliver on their mandate, and as such, the popular language in rural areas, even amongst the educated, they will tell you that, so this is the one I can see. Let me take it. Let me take it, because they can only see the group of people that are coming around again after 4 years, because talk of development is out of it. The politicians don't care what happened between when they were elected, and so the whole thing boils down to, as we're talking of poverty, we're also talking of a people that have idolized money over collective will. It has to do with collective will. When the people say, no, we have agreed that this is what we want to do. As at yesterday, I read a report on one of the media that carried out interviews and all that. The report was that we will collect their money and vote the person we want to.
In fact, that's another concept that we've been hearing. Even those who criticize, this vote trading, end up saying, if they give you money, take the money, it's your money, but then still vote your conscience. Does that even work?
Let me come in here. INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner did mention yesterday that they have redesigned their cubicle in such a way that it will be a bit far from. And the way, normally what they do is the agent of the party, of various parties, stand at strategic location. If you go into the stuff, you thumbprint, before you come to drop it in the ballot box, you just do as if you're trying to make the ink as in, so it's like
so receipt, that he will get to see
it's like the receipt of what, so you just flag it as if you want to send, the agent will confirm where you thumbprint, and then you go to drop it. So he said all that they've taken steps to, one of the steps they took to redress that is to redesign the cubicle in such a way that an agent cannot be standing at his strategic location and decide to confirm if his money has really worked or not.
But what do you say to situations where party agents actually aid voters to vote? You know, they go with them even to the cubicles, and perhaps the security officials or even the INEC officials, the ad hoc officials, just look the other way, you know, while that is happening. So what do you say to that?
I think my Oga here has rightly stated, people need to have political will, or there has to be willingness from them to actually say, no, we don't want to do this. But however, we need to also understand that there's cause and effect of anything. While we cannot keep dealing with effects without going down to dealing with the causes of them. So when we say we want political will, the essence of us voting in whosoever we vote in at the end of the day, whether it's a shoe, a goat, anybody or anything into government, is for us to ensure that we can have democratic rights to hold them accountable, and then their responsibilities that they are also supposed to do for us as a people. So if the poverty, currently, for as long as I can remember, for the past few years, Nigeria is still the poverty capital of the world, taking over India some years ago, and that is a big problem. It tells you, even if we don't see it from those of us who live in the urban settings, like here in Abuja, even within Abuja, you go to some satellite communities in Abuja, and then you see the realities of how people are living, and then you understand why those people don't care, because at the end of the day, the dividends of democracy does not trickle down to them. Whether they vote for whoever they want to vote for, or whoever they feel like is right, after the elections, everybody is living la vida loca. They don't feel the impact of governance or government as a whole. And that is what most civil society organizations are trying to do right now. And as civil society organizations are trying to do that in support of the government needs to also try as much as possible to ensure that those people actually feel the impact of government, so that way they don't get to sell their vote. And now one more thing, just to also address the issue that he raised about other smaller West African countries. We also have to put into consideration numbers. We're a large population. Lagos alone is the size of like 3 African countries or 4 African countries combined, just the population of Lagos alone. So because of that, it is difficult to manage. And our leaders need to understand that the essence of leadership position is to humble you and not to make you more arrogant. It is not some sort of reward. If you think of the responsibilities of leadership, it should be humbling and not to elevate your
all right. Well, that's also another discussion. But let's take a look at the top 4 contenders in that election, beginning with the incumbent governor in the state, Adeboyega Oyetola. A lot of people have said, well, he first of all is a cousin to the flag bearer of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself. We saw how that he went to rally support for him alongside other bigwigs of the APC and all of that. And then he was also the former chief of staff to the former governor, Rauf Aragbeshola, who unfortunately we understand have fallen out, and all of that. So what are his chances, looking at all the drama that is happening in Osun State?
Personally, I think from 2015 he had a lot of issues because he had to inherit the problems of Aragbeshola. Aragbeshola had especially with the civil servants and other fractions of the government. But
you mean pay in terms of salaries
and all of that. Most of what made the media at the time, and he had to muscle through that. And following his journey for the last 4 years, he has sort of addressed to some level some of the issues that they had, which would somehow douse the chances of Adeleke. Personally, I think Adeleke has a strong hold. He's also a very formidable person, but because he's an incumbent, he also has that incumbent power thing going for him. That's one thing. Secondly, he has, to some extent, like I said, following most of what he has done, he has addressed some of the issues, although he's still having some issues with some of the key stakeholders in the state. One of his major opponents is that of Aragbeshola. If not for the court ruling that just came out some days ago about him being a legitimate candidate for the INEC, that was one angle. The TO, they call themselves the Osun Progressives.
The Osun Progressives top.
They were going to use against him at that for these coming general elections. And the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as well has also increased his odds, boosted his chances significantly, because we cannot underestimate Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's a very strong stakeholder, especially in the southwest, not in that area where he actually controls. So I think his chances are looking a little bit better. But at the end of the day, as the electoral process, the electionary process demands, it is still the voice of the people that will determine.
But are there possibilities of litigations, you know, even after the election? Because as it is now, the Aregbesola camp, you know, can go ahead and appeal the judgment that was given, you know, earlier on. And then also there are other concerns that if he doesn't, you know, go on to appeal that judgment, how about him, you know, switching his allegiance to, you know, another party entirely speaking? So again, if you look at that, are there risks there?
To the risk of appealing that judgment is, I don't think Aregbesola will certainly appeal. Even if Oyetola is re-elected, he will still go on appeal. But however, in the media right now, what is trending is Yusuf Lasso, yes, has declared support for Adeleke. Yes. So he said his supporters should vote for Adeleke. That is in we start trending this morning. And I think that the chances of Oyetola returning is brighter than what it was about 4 years ago, because 4 years ago we knew what happened. Election has to spill over. There's lots of horse trading, a lot of exchanges and all that. But now he's the incumbent. I think that and the factor you've just alluded, that is to the Lagos factor. Yeah. You cannot discontinue, because he's bringing, after Ekiti election, it was all over the social media. The team that left Lagos for Ekiti for that election alone is almost like, and I think it's the same thing for Osun election. And I think Asiwaju will throw everything to the works to ensure that he brightens his chances. But on the part of PDP, they will do everything to ensure that they take over Osun State from the APC, at least for Nigerians to take them serious going into 2023. The article was on ground, though late. He came in, breezed in there, and it was part of the process. The big wigs are there, both from Lagos and the big men from the PDP. But it all boils down to if what happened in Ekiti still repeats itself in Osun State, certainly is going to be for the highest bidder.
Well, you know, this is one of the most keenly contested elections. Right. In fact, the last election in 2018, we saw the margin between the APC and the PDP was very, very slim, just about 500 thereabouts. That's right. You know, so if you look at that, and if you look at the new information that you're now giving us about Lasun Yusuf himself, who was former Speaker of the House of Representatives and also a former member of the APC as well. Yes. So I believe that some aggrieved people from the APC would have, you know, aligned with him as well. So if you look at that, you know, throwing his weight behind Ademola Adeleke, that's a great deal, isn't it? It's likely going to boost his chance, especially if you look at the fact that usually there's not much of a gap between the two leading parties in the election.
Now, about a total voter registration for Osun State is about 1.9 million, 1.9 something million. Then about 1.4 collected PVC. And out of the 1.4, about 35% are young people between the ages of 18 and 35. That is to say that school is on strike. Most schools are on strike. That is to say that the likelihood of the youth playing pivotal role in this election, in the outcome of this election, is very high. Now, see, if you cannot convince me now that the Aregbesola, that given what has existed between them before this election, will throw his weight behind Boyega. That is ruled out.
In fact, he wasn't there at the rally.
Yes. That is to say that he must support someone, and he's a strong force. Take it or leave it. He is still on ground in that state. So, and one man that has not spoken in recent time is the former Senator Yola Omishore, but we don't know his stand as we speak. But take it or leave it, the Adeleke the Adeleke family is a political family, a formidable one at that. Both Lagos factor, if you put both Lagos factor and incumbency together, it will still, they will just have to up their game to be able to surmount Adeleke.
Again, another factor is looking at the flag bearer of the Accord Party, Akin Ogumbi, himself was also a member of the APC. He was the second runner-up in the primary election in Osun State. So again, is there a chance that he himself too could likely decide that even though the elections have commenced, but again, somehow, is there any chance that he could also, behind the scenes, move his alliance to that of Adeleke? Because it's like 3 against 1 now.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the one thing that has been obvious leading up, even since since earlier in the year, that has been leading up to 2023, has been we've been seeing a lot of alliances against the current ruling party in the country, and that has really played a significant role in shifting. We've not seen any result of it yet. If we're looking at the statistics, actually, we've not seen any result of it yet. Whether the candidates of the Accord Party, if they are candidates of the Accord Party, depending on how much stance they have on ground, boots on ground, that would determine whether or not that. And I don't think, if you look at the state, they're not very strong. They don't have a very strong hold. And we also have to look at the issue of voter turnout. Because while we might say, 1.4 million people collected PVCs,
that's right.
Let's look at Ekiti State. There's already a precedence. Ekiti State, about 900 and almost 1 million registered voters, and less than 30% of that came out to vote. So, and that's not speaking well of the country at all. Or in terms of, we're saying people are having conversations around politics at this point, but people are not doing the actions that are needed. So the question about whether or not they form an alliance, that is for me, I feel like that's a surface conversation. It's a question of how well can they convince the people to come out and vote for those candidates.
Let me weigh in on
very key.
See, the enthusiasm generated by Osun State election is way too high compared to that of Ekiti. If you look at Ekiti election, there is no outstanding candidate, a known candidate.
Yes.
A known candidate. And don't forget that the former governor that was defeated before Governor Fayemi came in, he made some political error, let me put it that way, if you want to field candidate that is very visible, that you already know has established structure, just like pulling someone from the Adeleke family.
Yes.
Like I said, let's look at what happened in 2018. It will give us an insight into what we might likely expect today. Now, the enthusiasm in Osun election is going to be different from that of Ekiti, because in Ekiti, there's no outstanding, even Fayose himself, his political standing or stronghold on Ekiti politics has been dwindling for a while. For one, before he left, before that election that he supported Olushola to come in, he was owing about four months salary, teachers have been old and all that, and he went into election with that, and his candidate was defeated. And since then, he has not been. So by and large, we cannot compare the two, Ekiti and Osun. These are different. Ekiti is relatively small, while Osun State has about 30 local government, and that is huge. Now, for both voter register, on voter register, 1.9 million compared to about 900 and something. Okay, that is a very, very huge margin. And the actors that are involved in this election, Oyetola has earned some name. We don't know him relatively. Before now, we don't know him. But having stayed in office for 4 years, he has become a force, backed by a Lagos factor. Then we're looking at Adeleke that has his elder brother as a governor as far back as 1991, the first executive governor of the state.
Yes,
and all that is a political family, is a formidable. This fight is
But again, there's a problem because the PDP is also factionalized. And again, unbelievably, a brother to the Ademola Adeleke belongs to the opposing faction of the PDP. So if you look at that, is that a problem?
Like he said, it will depend on the weight of the person that is on the other side. Just like the Accord person, it depends on to affect the overall result of the election or how people are going to vote. It depends on the person who is you can have a supporter, for instance, like Aregbesola. If Aregbesola was behind Oyetola, what we are saying now, we'll still be like careful about what we say, because that is the former governor of the state. He's rooted in the state and all that. So the Ademola Adeleke's brother, who is on the other side, so what is his weight?
All right. Well, if you look at the conversation right now at the national level about the same-faith ticket of the APC flag bearer right now, is that something that is likely to feature even in Osun State governorship election, in your own opinion?
The Muslim ticket?
Yes.
You see, that's actually I was going to raise that. That's actually one of the factors working against them currently, because the West we know is not
polarized.
Yes, as much as the way we say, oh, you can say the northern part of the country, largely Muslims, the southern part of the country, largely Christians, but the southwestern part of the country is a bit more tricky because there's like a very low margin between the both religions. And the fielding in the Muslim ticket for me, I felt like was tone deaf. Let me put it that way, for lack of better terminologies. I think it was a bit tone deaf. They needed to have been more strategic, but so far from the conversations we've heard, that has not really been at the fore of people's concern. I think, and that's a good thing in a way. It's a good and a bad thing. Let me put it that way, because while some margin might are feeling marginalized, people are more concerned about the credibility of the candidates, because those are the conversations that people are having right now. Is he credible? Is he okay? Is he going to lead us properly for another 4 years, or do we need to bring in someone new? These are the conversations that people are having around the Osun State elections, that I feel like, and these are supposed to be the most pertinent conversations that we should have around governance and leadership, and not faith. Should be, those things are infinitesimal to the things that are actually to the issues that we actually have currently, because whether or not we have a Christian in the ticket, on the ticket, I think it's a non-issue in the face of security, in the face of poverty, in the face of other pressing matters, in the face of the economy. These are non-issues. The issues what comes to play is the question of do the person have the political will? Is the person competent enough to actually face these issues head on? So for now, so far, very few people are talking about the Muslim ticket angle of it, and more people are talking about the credibility and how competent these candidates are.
So I'll need to come in here. At the level of Osun State, I've had a few things to do with the Southwest. You hardly know you are in this is a Muslim, apart from maybe they go to pray. It's only when they go to pray that you can distinguish in behaviors, as common members, we go to market, you are treated, even if your name is John or all that, there's nothing
no one cares, really.
No one cares, really. No one cares. But on a national scale, I want to say that the options we go for depends on the level of our development. See, if we are building a nation that where for the purpose of inclusiveness, like 1998 thereabouts, that is 92, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is from Arkansas. Alexander Gore from Tennessee. Those are just neighboring states. One is the president and one is the vice president. But because why there's no squabble about Christian, Muslim, or region? Why? Because the level of their development has already overtaken all those mundane considerations. But for our level of development, for the purpose of inclusiveness, because the more people give, especially at a time like this, when it's well, the security challenges we're having on our hands. Some people are of the opinion that if you are dealing with issues of, okay, if it's like that, why didn't Tinubu go to the Asiwaju, go to like Edo State and pick a running mate? If he so find a competent person there, he will still go to the north for balance. He went to the north because of balance. So it's the same way you will balance the religion, because religion is even more sensitive here than the region stuff that we're talking about.
Especially if you take a look at the fact that some have argued that when the PDP, for instance, decided to jettison its own zoning arrangement, in favor of the North, not many people, we've not had this kind of debate, that we are having now. And then all of a sudden, with this, the same faith ticket, you have more debates going on and all of that.
Because I still think that they are Christians. If you, North Central is also North, isn't it?
Yeah. North
Central of Kogi, Plateau, Nasarawa, Benue, and all that. Wow, 60 is thereabout. I think we have also Christians that are competent. If you go to Northeast, for instance, people like Boss Mustafa.
All right. Well, we'll get to see because a lot of people have, talked about how that this same argument and the political mood in the country is likely going to impact on the Osun State governorship election. But let's just put that aside. And then there's also the issue of violence in the process. Before today, we've heard how the candidate of the Labour Party has raised concerns about his home being attacked, by some armed men and all that. And so a lot of concerns. During the primaries of both the leading political parties, the PDP and the APC, we've had, I think, about 3 people died, 2 on one side and then 1 on the other hand, and all of that. So there is that concern. But we'll talk more on that. We'll go for this short breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at what's likely to happen. Please stay with us.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching the special coverage of the Osun governorship election, and we're live here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, political analyst, and also Nelson Omonu, the publisher, The Summit Post, talking about this election and all the updates that we are receiving at the moment. Our correspondent, Shafiu Suleiman, is right there in Osun State, bringing us updates every now and then. But gentlemen, let me take your last word for now before we go on a recess, basically talking about what to expect, in the next, I would say, hours of this Osun election? Beginning with you, Mukhtar.
All right. I think personally, I think it's a bit fragile. We don't know how it's going to turn out yet. Anything can happen. It's a very precarious situation that we're in the state. But we'll keep observing, and then we keep going. But one thing I want to say to most people out there that are listening right now is, as we forge ahead to the 2023 elections, it is your personal responsibility to try as much as possible to get your PVC, and not just to use it for banking transactions or as means of identification in the airport, but also so that you go out there and cast your franchise. You owe it to posterity, you owe it to yourself. It doesn't matter who you think is good or bad. It is one of the things about the democratic process. It is, we cannot say we want the dividends of democracy without the rigors of what comes with it. And one of those rigors of the process is what we do once every 4 years, both at state level, at the federal level.
All right.
Go out there, vote. And I want to say this as well, because before we went on the break, you were saying something about electoral violence. I think most of us need to try as much as possible to understand that we cannot keep being instruments and tools of disharmony in our society. For each time we do that, it affects us more than it affects them. The last time, for the 4 queues that we had, I know politicians who never for one day, their cars never for one day spent more than 10 minutes at filling stations.
Okay.
So try as much as possible, go out there and vote your conscience, and let's keep the peace as much as we can.
All right. Osun?
Yes, my appeal is to 2 stakeholders. One, INEC. This is a referendum. This election is a referendum on the preparedness of INEC for 2023 election. I think Nigeria as a state has given enough to INEC, at least to get something in return. And that something in return is the various reports that is going to come from various NGOs that are monitoring the election, that look, we give INEC pass mark for what happened in Osun State. And for the youth, those that are fomenting trouble, just know that you are destroying the properties that you are supposed to grow up to inherit, or your children will inherit. Then if you sell your vote, just know that the money will finish today, but for the next 4 years, you are going to be accountable to your children someday.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll be taking a break, and we'll be back in the studio by 1 p.m. later today to bring you more updates as they unfold right there in Osun State. For now, thank you for watching. Join us later for another time. Please stay with us. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Bye for now.